right? We're good? Are we on? Are we on the right channel? This is the thing. I think I was on the wrong channel last week. Ugh. Anyway, I'm live. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us at our latest Sylvia Findings live stream presentation. I know the description said we were going to do more gold findings, and we are. There was just. It occurred to me that when I was preparing this that, gosh, we actually did look at all of the gold, the new gold findings that we got. So, I'm just going to remind you that we have a bunch of new gold findings, new shapes, right? Cushion cuts in a bunch of different sizes. Working this week to take pictures and get all the descriptions and everything done. So, with any luck, I think almost assuredly they'll be on they should be on the website late next week, maybe. Anyway, yeah. We have shows coming up. We're at a show this weekend. If you're in Ontario or the environs. Oh. So let me just back up a minute. This is going to be a short live stream. Not because I can't go on. I could go. You know me, right? You know me. I could go on for hours and hours just about blah 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 blah. But it's just been one of those days so far. I mean, how do you yourself, Mark? How can your day be one of those days already? It's only like 10:30 in the morning. Yeah, it's just stupid hot here. Just like really stupid hot. And we're on the second floor, and there's almost no insulation, which means it just gets baking hot in here. We have a AC unit, which I don't know if you can hear those fans in the background. Normally I turn them off for the live stream. I'm not doing it today. You're gonna have to suffer with that ambient noise in the background there because it's just too hot. It's just too hot in the office here. So it's gonna be short because I need to go stand in front of the AC unit. Oh boy, we're just not built for this heat. Right? So anybody who says, look, global warming, haha. Yeah, the chickens are coming home to roost, baby. I don't think, and the idea is surely we'll be able to out-tech this problem, right? As we advance, as we get more sophisticated technologically, we'll be able to develop technologies that will deal with the issue. But man, I'm beginning to feel like we're too late. Happy Wednesday. Anyway, neither here nor there. You don't need to hear this from me. You don't need to hear me complain about how hot it is, because wherever you are, if you're on the West Coast, you're feeling it too. So, right? Hopefully you can empathize with the little live stream guy, presenter guy. Ugh. Yeah. So, we do what we can. I forget what my point was. I was about to say something, and then I got sidetracked. And then you see, this is how these things can go. Lise is messaging me, are we going live soon? Lise, we are live. Am I not live? It says right in the corner, live. I'm on the Sylvia Findings Facebook page. Ugh. Well, she'll have to move it after, when it goes on to you. I mean, normally, we don't get a whole lot of people, tuning in when it's live anyway. A couple, 3, 4. But usually, most of the engagement happens after the fact, once we post it, and people can watch at their leisure. Although why? I'm still baffled of why people would want to watch this. Except for the tidbits, which I'm going to get there now. But there are a couple of things I wanted to talk about. First of all, let me move this around. I can do this. There we go. So, the thing I want to bring your attention to on these new gold findings, and is this going to focus for me? There we go. Can you see that? I just want to focus on the background. Maybe I'll just put that there. That's pretty far away. So normally I do this with Nelson's phone, but because Nelson is away in Ontario at the show in Bancroft this weekend, I never forgot to mention that show. we normally use his phone. Anyway, I just want to bring to your attention the prongs on these things. And I know that prongs are not something that most people think about, but when we're kind of developing new products, the first thing you got to take into consideration is what the customers who are going to use this are, mostly. And traditional settings like this are made with the prongs that are round. This is just like a round piece of wire, and there's normally a notch cut inside. And the way that you set stones in a notched prong is, I think traditionally they didn't have notches, and the jeweler would, put the stone in, assess where the girdle is, cut a little notch where the girdle would go, open them up, put the stone in there, push those things in so that the notch that you create in the prong actually traps the stone in place. Then you would cut the top of the prongs off, or using a rotary burr, or a cup burr thing to remove the top of the prong, and then polish the the tops that are, or you can cut them with the cutters and then polish the tops of those things so it looks like the prong is bent over the top of the stone, but really they're not. The notch is just in there and then pushed over, and the notch becomes the metal that kind of looks like it's being pulled over the prong. Now, the vast majority of hobbyists, which is most of our customers, right? The people buy stones at gem shows, or QVC or whatever, or however they get their stones, and then they try to find a setting for it, and then they put the stone in the setting and push the prongs over, and that's it. There's sure, there's an education thing. You can train people. You can put a little leaflet in every one of these things explaining how to do it. But it's just not feasible, right? With the kind of gear that you need, a rotary tool like a flex shaft or a Dremel, stone setting burrs, hard burrs, all those kind of burrs to do all that kind of thing. And it's metalsmithing. Not a lot of people, have that skill, to be able to do that. Jewelers do, sure. But the vast majority of our customers, we've discovered, why won't this stay in focus? They don't have their own jeweler to do those things with. So we developed this prong. I'm going to try to block out the background so it will keep it in focus. Is kind of a hybrid, right? Prongs that are designed for cabochons are flat on the inside. This is really annoying me. Wow, my phone is terrible. Okay, there you go. That's in focus. So these are, still, mostly rounded. So if you were a traditional jeweler and you wanted to put the notches in there and fold it over that way, you can still do that with these. But because the inside is a little bit flat, you can just take these prongs and push them over onto the girdle of the stone, and, push them up onto the crown, and everything is great. The only thing, sometimes, these prongs might be a little bit too long. You might need to trim them down. A lot of people don't do that. I see a lot of settings where the prongs are really, really deep into the stone. But whatever. It just makes these easier for more people to set stones with. And I've even had people who are like real jewelers say that they love these because it's just so much easier to set with, right? They're buying stones, they're buying settings, they're putting them together and putting them up for sale. They don't want to spend 20 minutes cutting notches and doing all that stuff. They just want to pop the stone in, push the prongs over, and call it a day. Polish it up, and there you go, right? And that's totally an option with these. Now, we're redoing a lot of our settings, so every time we have we're redoing a previously made setting, we're going to be adapting these kind of things to it. So there's an issue, and I'll talk about this at the end with new things. The other thing I wanted to show you another. It's kind of a new item, but it's an old item. MTP 1058. If you remember these, right? These lockets with the little glass panes inside them, right? And they open up. There's a little hinge on one side, and they open up. Doink, right? Now, previously these were made. God, please stay in focus. Oh my gosh. Anyway, previously these were made with kind of like a ledge on the outside. I mean, this is just ridiculous. A ledge on the outside. There was some glue put on the inside of the ledge, and the pane was just dropped right in front. But we had an issue where if people tried to put something in here that was too wide for the inside, and I think on the old ones the width of the inside was about 3 millimeters or so, 3.5 maybe. So if you tried to put something that was more than that in there and you push this thing closed, the pane would pop out. And even, you know, sometimes if the glue failed or the glue wasn't properly cured or whatever, sometimes the panes would drop out, you know. So we redesigned this with little tabs, right, cast with the piece. I don't know if you can see the 4 little tabs there. And the panes are dropped in from behind, and the little tabs are pushed on over to hold the glass pane against the inside of the thing. So this way, no matter what happens, well, if you try to put something in there that won't fit, you know, it won't close. But if it was larger than this thing and you tried to push it closed, the pane would break. And you would say, okay, yeah, that's me, that's my problem, I think. Now the width on the old ones, like I said, I think they were about 3 millimeter on the inside of these. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head. And I tried to look for one of these, an older version this morning, to show you how they pop out pretty easily. But I couldn't find one. I don't know. I guess we melted them all down, pulled the panes out so we could reuse the panes for these new ones. Anyway, yeah. I think the inside space on these now, instead of being 3 millimeter like they used to be, is a little bit less, obviously because the panes are on the inside, not on the outside. And we didn't want to make it much thicker than it was before, so, you know, it's pretty much identical except for how the panes are attached to the frames. And this is about 2.5 millimeters of gap inside there. So, you know, little melee stones, or I don't know, sand, or I don't know, whatever you wanted to put in there, pictures, dried flowers, whatever, you know, will still work great. It works as a great little locket. And again, that code number MTP 1058. Okay. Let me turn this around again. No. So, those are the couple things I wanted to show you. On all of the new gold, there is still the original version of the gold findings that have more traditional notches, which are still just as easy to use as ever. But I think subsequent casting, when we do them, we'll do them with those new prongs. Which brings me to a question. I had a question from a customer on Etsy. She ordered a ring a couple months ago. Can't remember the code number, but it's one of the rings that has multiple stones in there. It's like a 3 millimeter or a 5 millimeter stone, and then 2 3 millimeter stones, kind of like a wavy thing on the outside. I should have pulled one out to show you, but whatever. It's more of a concept than this an actual thing. And she just reordered a new one, and not the shape, because it's pretty much the identical ring, but the flowy parts of it were not as thick as they were in the original one. I just said, what's up with this? You know, and fair question, and the answer is pretty simple, although it doesn't really make a lot of sense unless you're in the industry and you kind of understand how these things are. When we make these rings, settings, pendants, whatever, we have a digital file, a 3D model that we build, that we use to create the initial prototype. We 3D print the prototype, and then we do a casting of that. We just add it to whatever tree or whatever we're casting that day. And then that original 3D casting, we'll polish it, make it beautiful, do whatever when it's still connected to the sprue, and then we'll make a rubber mold from that, right? Which you take the actual thing, you pack it in a piece of rubber, you put rubber all around it, you know, push it all in. It's like, you know, kind of like clay, plasticine, I guess. It feels like the rubber stuff that you use to make the molds. And then once that's all packed in there, you vulcanize the rubber, heat and pressure, right? Makes the rubber nice and hard. It's still rubber, but it's you know, much harder. Holds its shape really well, and then you slice. You know, if you've ever seen a casting wax mold, you know the thing, right? The little rectangular cube thing. You get in there, you cut the piece in half, right? You pull the sides open, and then ultimately you release the two sides of the mold, and you pull the little prototype out. And then you can put them back together, you know, because you cut the jagged edges around the edge so they line up properly. A bunch of different tricks for doing that, but not germane to the discussion. And then you take that mold and you inject molten wax, hot wax into it. You let it cool, then you open the mold, you pull the little wax thing out, and you can do that over and over and over again to make as many wax versions of the item you want to make. And then you build it up on a tree and then do the lost wax casting, right? So the problem with those molds, the rubber molds, is they don't last forever, right? After you do, I don't know, like 100 or so, maybe more ish, you know, it depends on the heat of the wax, what kind of wax you're using, how detailed the mold is, you know, lots of different, you know, variables as to how long they last, but eventually they do wear out, and they reach a point where you just have to remake them, right? You have to remake the rubber mold. And normally, all you would do is start the whole process over. You would take the original digital file, you'd 3D print a wet resin copy of that, and then you make a new mold. You cast it, you make a new mold, and everything is the same, right? But if those original 3D files are lost or corrupted or unavailable, then they have to be remade from scratch, right? We have to make a new 3D model and make a thing, and normally we do that, you know, the best we can, you know, measuring the width of the shanks and you know, the dimensions of the settings inside and how to put together, and pictures for the person who's doing the CAD, the computer-aided design of the model to look at, so they can, you know, recreate it. So there are going to be subtle differences, right? If we have to remake something, and they're not always. Usually, they're not noticeable at all. You know, maybe just one curve is a little wider than other, or maybe the you know, I don't know, the accent stones are not quite in the same arrangement as they were. You know, little minor things like that. That unless you hold both of them up side by side, you would never be able to tell that there was a difference in them. But there have been a couple of instances where we had to recreate them from scratch, and the recreation was different enough from the original. Usually, you know, we'll just create a new product code for that. So we have like a pendant that has a code number MTP912, and if there's one that's just a little bit different, maybe you know, the flourishes on the side are a little bit different size, or you know, just something that's visually noticeable, but it's still more or less the same thing. We would just call it MTP912B kind of thing. Now, that doesn't mean that every code that we have that has a B in it is more or less identical to the same, you know, one. Sometimes it could also be that, you know, if we design something like, we'll have a pendant that we want to have in a 6x8 oval and an 8x10 oval and a 10x12 oval, we might call it MTP 1, 2, 3 A, B, and C, right, for the different sizes of the settings. So that's also a possibility. But, so don't take anything for granted, because we're just making it up as we go with the code numbers. There's no rhyme or reason. So that's it. I think that's all I really wanted to talk to you about, because I'm just dying. It's only 10:30 in the morning, and I'm already baking. I'm already dying, and I have a really nice AC unit at home that if I didn't have people that I know were coming in today, I would say, well, I'm just working at home today. It's too hot. But I can't disappoint my crew that are on the road. So I'm going to get to work back in the sweltering heat. So have fun, stay cool, do what you can to stay cool, and take care of yourself, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health. Oh, and if you have pets, you know, dogs especially, if you have a kiddie pool, you know, or even just drop them in your sink, dogs, man, they have the worst of it. It doesn't take much to keep them cool, and they love splashing around. So splash your dogs. And I will see you not next week, because the next 3 weeks, next week we have a show in Vancouver, August 4th and 5th, I think it is. Then the week after that in the 12th to the 14th in Victoria, and then the week after that, I think the 20, or maybe there's a week break. Anyway, you can look it up on the socials. Then we're in Calgary after that, sort of thing. So 3 shows coming up in the month of August, which we're excited about, and we'll see you there. So again, anyway, thank you for joining me this morning, evening, afternoon, whenever you're watching this, and take care of yourself, take care of the planet, take care of your mental health, and I will see you next week. All right, bye-bye. Finish. How do I do this? Press this button. I can do it.